I just want to take one moment to thank Dr. Soldan for doing this again and again, and it gets better and better every year. And I know it's a labor of love, but it's a labor that you've invested years into, and we're just so appreciative that you can share all that you've done with the community, so that we can all have better Seders. So thank you all for joining, and thank you especially to Zalman for doing this again.
Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for the kind words. This is a labor of love, maybe an obsession, some would call it. Uh, but I do love it, and I love Pesach, and always have, and this just sort of flows from it. Welcome everyone to this year's edition of Seder Surprises. I think we figured out earlier today, I think we started in 2011, if I'm not mistaken, with the first one with the sisterhood from our shul, and then it kind of grew from there. Uh, Now, wouldn't it be great if our children anxiously awaited the Seder, were active participants in the Seder, asked questions, answered questions, were awake the whole time, we're excited, we're engaged? Wouldn't it be great if we ourselves were the same? Uh, we can do that. It just takes a couple steps to create creative, amazing, engaging, and exciting Siddharim for ourselves and for our children. It takes just a few steps, and we can transform our Seder. Uh, it does take a little planning, but doesn't necessarily take as much as you think. It does take a little effort, but not much. Some of the ideas you'll see were conceived and implemented with literally under 2 hours to go before candlelighting. There was another one in there that I saw that literally took 20 minutes. Uh, some of them take a lot more planning, uh, admittedly. But it just takes a little bit of effort, and with a little bit of planning, you can really change your Seder. Do be forewarned. Once you see the excitement in your kids and the family, you too will become addicted, and you will never look at leaving Egypt the same way again. Friend of mine thought I had said this. I thought he had said it. Turns out Yehuda Hanasi had said it. The lesson that's enjoyed is the lesson that is learned well. If your kids enjoy the Seder and enjoy learning because you've made it fun for them, they will take that with them, and they will remember what you've taught them, and they will take those traditions with them. Thank you, Rabbi Shaiwitz, for pointing out that even Rambam would have enjoyed Seder surprises. Uh, in his Hilchot Chametz Matzah, the laws of Chametz Matzah, he says what changes should be made on that night so the children will see and will be motivated to ask, why is this night different from all other nights? So that the leader can reply to them, this and this happened and this took place. So what changes should be made? You should give them roasted seeds and nuts. Rambam was from a Sephardi heritage. The table should be taken away before they eat. Now, I remember learning about that when I was in elementary school. I've never seen it. My parents never did it. We've never done it. I don't know anyone who does it, but there may be people who take away the table uh, during the Seder and then bring it back. Matzot should be snatched from each other. Now that, it's 1,000 years later from Rambam, and we're still doing that. Isn't that kind of cool? To me, that's amazing. Uh, but the most important phrase here, "Uchyotse badvarim ha'elu," and things like that. So he's now given us license to be creative in our Siddharim in order to get the children to ask questions so that we can then teach them about what happened. Thank you to the Adult Ed Committee of Shari Tefillah. Uh, Rabbi Shayowitz is the Rav there. Adult Ed Committee of Rinat Yisrael, Beth Aaron, YPA of Yavin Academy. These are shuls in our local, in Teaneck, that were gracious enough to invite me when we were starting this workshop. Special thank you to Shir Shayowitz, who's been a sounding board for me for all the years since she and Rabbi Shayowitz joined our community. And again, a special thanks to Rabbi Shayowitz and the RCBC for helping take this workshop online in 2020 when COVID hit. And of course, special thanks to my wife and the other Seldons who put up with my antics and who've come up with their own. Do send me a note. Tell me who you are. Tell me how you found out about the workshop. Uh, I'm gonna do a raffle. Pick a random email from all the emails that I get about the workshop to win a special prop for the Seder. If you're in Teaneck, it's very easy. So this is what we gave away last year. It's a Matem Moshe staff that has written on it the Tzach Adash Bachav, the acronym, the first letters of each of the plagues, as traditionally that's what was written on Moses' staff. And you can see what you can do with that during the Seder as we go through the talk. But do email me, let me know who you are, and we'll do a raffle. If you're outside of Teaneck, we'll figure something else out. We have some other prop or games that we can send you. A little hard to talk about this. Our shul lost a beloved member, Adam Gusson, this year, and just want to mention him because as a friend, as a member of the shul, uh, I want everyone to know about him. For years, he and a small group from our shul learned the laws of making matzah every Shabbat afternoon in the local park. Then later, he and the group started making their own matzah. I knew Adam as someone who intensely wanted to know the reason behind everything that we did, how they worked, whether it was medically, culinarily, or just life in general. He took that same intensity with baking matzot to learning how to make matzot and baking them. Uh, we put together one year we took pictures, my son and I took pictures of the group baking matzah and put together a puzzle for the shul that we hung in the front lobby. I don't know if anyone actually did it, but we took pictures and put them out of order and the hope was that the kids would rearrange them and learn how the order of how matzahs are made from the gathering of the wheat, the watching of the wheat to the gathering and getting the water all the way through the baking and then taking challah at the end. Um, I think it's also important to remember that with the situation going on in Israel, that not all the hostages made out alive. Not all the hostages have been returned. So there's still people from our community missing, and we should remember that and keep an open space for them. And now with the announcement this morning that Israel's going back into Gaza, there are going to be a lot of people called up for reserves who may again miss Seder with their family. So we should keep them in mind. It's easy here in the States to sort of be uh, uh, separate from that, but I think it's important to remember that we all are one community. Couple guiding principles. We'll go through this quickly because you'll see this in action. We did not find activities that fit these activities or create activities that fit these activities. No, this is just after the fact. We look back and saw, oh, this worked and this may be why. Friendly competition is good. Real competition is not. You'll see examples of how we implement that. Get the kids invested in the effort. We give them jobs. We work with them. They come up with their own ideas. And once they come up with the ideas, they're invested and they're going to make it work. Food is good. Hungry is bad. That's self-explanatory. Movement is good. Stationary is bad. That should also be self-explanatory, but not always. There are parts of the Seder where after you've been sitting for a while, it's time to get the table, not just the kids, but the adults moving. And we try to do that in our house. Less is sometimes more. I think this is important to say because no one else will say it. Sometimes you need to focus on what's most important at the Seder and sort of motor on through the other parts. We say the whole Haggadah out loud, but we've learned what the kids are interested in, what they're not, and that has changed over the years. When the kids were younger, they were more interested in the makot and the plagues. As they got older, they wanted to discuss different things, different other parts of the Seder. So that will change over time. But it's important to keep that in mind that the Seder is here for the kids and to get them to ask questions, and you need to be moving to keep their interest. Loot is good. Goodie bags are a child's best friend. My younger daughter said this when she was 7, 8. Never really hit me until she said it, that she really appreciates. And I think a lot of kids appreciate having something that they can take home with them. Whether they never look at it again, but I think they will still remember having taken something with them, something tangible in hand. And you'll see examples of that as we go along. Do try this at home. Try these activities at home, these ideas at home, but do not do everything. This is 30 years. We've been doing Seders for, I think this will be our 31st year doing a Seder. Uh, so this, you're seeing in total 30 years worth of ideas here. Uh, don't do everything. Just do a couple, two or three ideas are enough to turn your Seder into a exciting, engaging Seder. That's all it takes. Plus, don't forget, you're gonna need ideas for the following year and the next year and the next year. So you don't want to do everything. You want to save things. Again, just do two or three, and that's enough. Uh, Pre-game show. So in the live version, it was very easy to ask and go around the crowd. When does the Seder really start? A little bit harder on Zoom, unless someone wants to chime in. But it's a little bit. We all know the obvious answer. Kaddish. We know the 14 steps of the Seder, and Kaddish starts it. So that's the obvious answer. But is that really when the Seder starts? So technically, yes, but there's an example of a woman on the other side of town here in Teaneck who took one of my ideas and really took it to the next level. She made signs. So now her guests, as they're walking toward her house, are going to see, wait a minute, this Seder, what they're coming to tonight is going to be different from all other nights. It's going to be different from any other Seder they've been to. They're already getting that hint. So her Seder has already started when the guests arrive. I downloaded these signs, I think, from an NCSY site a number of years ago. We hang these up on our doorway inside the house, so people when they come in can see, oh, again, this is something different. This is not going to be your average Seder. Maybe they walk in the door and they immediately bump into a doorpost that has a red plastic tablecloth on it. And last year we added a paintbrush to it. We're all here to learn ideas about the Seder, so we already have a background in the Seder and the story, so it should be obvious to most of us what this represents, the blood on the doorpost that Bnei Israel painted as they were waiting, as they were just before the 10th plague. So your guests may see that and say, oh, wait a minute, this is going to be different tonight. Something else is going to go on. Maybe they look in the other room and they see a doorway that has now a blue plastic tablecloth cut across it with a slit down the middle. So again, we all know we're here for Seder ideas. So this is obvious. This is going to be uh, crossing the Red Sea. But when your guests walk in, they see this. They say, "Oh, wait a minute, something different's going to go on." Now this year, Erev Pesach is Shabbat, so already you'll be putting some of this stuff up on Friday. So your guests won't see it till Saturday night, but your kids will already know, wait, this is going to be a different Seder than what we're used to. Maybe they look to the dining room, and this is our dining room from 2014, and they see plastic uh, swords that have a snake head on it. Remember the story? Moshe throws down his staff, and it turns to a snake. They're going to see little plastic animals on it. We used to put plush wild animals on here. Maybe they see the wine labels don't look exactly like what they're used to. Uh, they're seeing different things on here. There are some plush frogs on here. There are origami frogs on here. Your table looks different, and they're going to recognize that this Seder is going to be different. Let's say your table was not set, had books all over, was dusty. Your guests are going to know, wait a minute, you're not taking this too seriously, and uh, they're going to already get an idea of what Seder this is going to be like. Or let's say you put out the fanciest china, the thinnest crystal on a white linen tablecloth. They know, your guests are going to know, and your kids are going to know what type of Seder this is. And they're going to know, wait a minute, we need to be a little bit careful here, and we're not going to have as much freedom or as much leeway here to learn or to get excited over the Seder. I don't always remember to take a picture before candlelighting, so we skipped to 2019, and you can see our Seder table looks a little bit different. Our kids are now older. 5 years older, so our table looks different. On this table, we had a plush sheep. Uh, I found in CVS, I think it was CVS that year, I found frog bowls. So now we use these frog bowls to put our charoset in. Someone gave me a frog salt shaker, and that's what we put on the table. Uh, and I found on Amazon a plush louse, which I like to put on. Not everyone in my family appreciates it as much. And behind, framed perfectly by our window, is a mural that I found online of Moshe splitting the Red Sea, lifting his staff up and the sea splitting. So already your guests walk in, your kids see this is going to be a different night from all other nights. Thank you, Janet Hode, for sending a picture of her table in 2021. Some things I want to point out. So off to the corner, she had building blocks. So the kids, if they needed some time away from the table itself, could go off to the side and build things with it. Uh, and you can use that as a teaching moment to say, well, that's what Bnei Israel did when they were in Egypt. They were building store cities for Pharaoh. Uh, we'll get to something else that she did. You can see it a little bit in this picture, but we'll show it in close up a little bit later that I think is absolutely brilliant. This is our table last year, and you can see each year it changes. Last year we had a much more adult Seder. Uh, and years ago I had found online a model of the Mishkan, the tabernacle that traveled with Bnei Israel in the desert. And one Sunday afternoon, my son and his best friend and I built it. Had a great afternoon, and then we put it away and didn't think about it. Had it on the side, didn't really think about it. And then this past year, I said, wait a minute, you know, Bnei Israel travel in the desert. They leave Mitzrayim, they leave Egypt, they cross the Red Sea, they go into the desert, they get the Torah, and then they're in the desert for the next 39 years. They're traveling with the Mishkan. They travel in a certain order. Parshat Bamidbar talks about the order where they camped around the Mishkan. So we took this model, had to fix it up because it had broken a little bit, and we made little origami tents to put around the model so that the kids could learn where around the Mishkan each tribe lived and where they camped. Also on that, not necessarily related to the Mishkan, to the model, is our Kos Eliyahu, which I'll show you more about later. Uh, and that was our table this past year. You can see here in the distance our place cards that we used, and I'll show you those in close up a little bit later. I think the price went up on this Mishkan. Oops. I think the price went up on this Mishkan since I got it. But I also found one both on Amazon of the Beit HaMikdash that you can also use and get both. Over time, these are interesting things to put together with the kids anyway, and doubly use them at the Seder. The murals. So you saw one mural before, but there were lots of these online and not that expensive. So this is another one we bought a couple years ago. I think it was Amazon also, for not that much. And we hung it up behind us at the Seder. So now you can change things around a little bit. So your guests walk in the house, they immediately almost stumble onto this. Now, anyone who's had little kids, almost all of us, I'm sure, at one point with little kids have had one of these blow up swimming pools. So we found ours, blew it up again, put in one of these ubiquitous blue plastic tablecloths that you'll see a lot of, and put a basket. I think we got this for Mishloach Manot one year, and put a basket in there with a little bit of hay and a doll in there. And that becomes Moshe in a basket floating on the Nile, waiting for Paro's daughter to find him. So that is another way you can lead the kids into learning the story of what's going on or what's leading up to the Seder and what goes on at the Seder. Traditionally, Bnei Israel they're told to put aside a sheep for their Korban Pesach. I think it was a week before the 10th of Nisan. I forget exactly. A week before the holiday, put it aside so that it would be ready for. We found a plush sheep and we tied it to the bedpost to our son's bedpost, and already our Seder, the hints at our Seder were already starting a week before. Thank you, Janet Hode, again for sending a picture of what she did on her front porch. So it's now 3.5 weeks to the Chag. Think now, don't wait till the last minute. Maybe look through the story and give different people coming to your Seder a character from the Seder to dress up as. DIY. You don't have to get a ready-made costume. They can do it on their own. Uh, and through the Seder, maybe they can act as that character a little bit and talk as if they're that character. You can even give them some of the lines in the Seder, depending on who they are. We've some so taking along the line of costumes. So we, a number of years ago, went to a local fabric store in Hackensack and got their odds and ends and made tunics, or we call them slave costumes. And we give one to each person at our Seder. They're welcome to wear them. They're welcome not to wear them. We went to Home Depot, found very thick rope to act as belts. You can see our example of Matem Moshe, of Moses' staff, that we found in our local park. For anyone who was wondering where Mount Nebo is, Har Nevo is, it's really Phelps, the Pitcher's Mound of Phelps Park, down here in Teaneck. And that's my son dressed up in one of these slave costumes. Uh, as an aside, it's great for the kids because you know they're going to spill, and this protects their clothes. Um, we have one for everyone, and people are welcome to wear, but it gets people in the mood, gets them in costume, so to speak. Uh, Going through Magid, there's a section where Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says, "Harani kiven shivim shana." I was like a 70-year-old man. Story goes that he was really, I think, 17 or 18 when he was made the head of the Sanhedrin. So we got a beard. I think it's actually from Santa Claus beard from Amazon, and then one of us puts that on at that point in the Seder. I'm constantly on the lookout for different things, and Paro costume or an Egyptian costume comes through online and goes on sale periodically. Keep an eye out for this stuff. If not for this year, then for future years. And I'll show you what we did with this one year. I like place cards. Not everyone does, but I do. And I like making one every year. I think it lends more flavor to the table. But it does mean we're doing different things each year. Last year, we took a Gemara cover, Talmud cover, and made that into, put our name instead of Bavli and put the name instead of which Masechet it is. And that became place cards for everyone at the table. The year before, thank you, Yossi Prager, who, if I remember, lives in Teaneck, emailed me after one of these workshops and said, I got some papyrus online. I don't know what to do with it. Any ideas? So I'm thinking about it. And this is what I came up with. I didn't want to send papyrus through a laser printer, so I got clear labels at, I think, Staples, and printed out the names of everyone coming to our Seder on the labels, and then put the label, but transformed the letters or converted the letters as a one-to-one cipher into hieroglyphics, and that became our place cards. So now people come to the Seder, they have to look at the hieroglyphics and try to figure out who's sitting where. So your first thought is, oh my God, it's impossible. But it's not, because some people will have a double letter in their name. They can then pick out their name. They know how many letters are in their English name, so they can then figure out which of the hieroglyphics is them. And once you figure out one name, you get all the other letters and you can figure out where everyone is sitting. But it becomes sort of a game at the beginning of the Seder. Again, getting your guests interested, getting them excited, getting them engaged. The year before, we made a parody off a Facebook page, different parody ads that we had made, and of course, all the different parts of the Seder go down the side. We've done plague bills, in the past. We've done chariot licenses a couple years ago. I think one of our earlier ones was baseball cards, still one of my favorites. Uh, some of them are a lot more work, some of them are not so much work. Uh, but I think a lot of fun. Preview of what's coming this year. This is our idea for this year. Uh, so don't give it away to anyone who might be coming to our Seder. But this is going to be place cards for this year. I thought I saw Kate Davis in the group here, and she and I have already been working on something for next year. So already, when an idea comes to you, run with it. So already we're thinking about next year. Game on. So now the Seder is now starting. So when my oldest, I think she was 8, 9 years old, she came to me literally 2 hours to candlelighting and said, "What can we do at the Seder that's going to be interesting?" I said, "Well, what do you want to do? What do you think?" She said, "I don't know, but maybe let's look at each let's look at each paragraph in the Haggadah and take a vote on whether it relates to slavery or freedom and why." Yeah, okay. Maybe we'll pick a couple paragraphs and do that, but let's do this, not just talk about it. Maybe let's do something tangible in hand. So we thought about it and came up with this idea. And it's kind of similar to what they used to do at the Olympics, would hold up their vote in the air on a card. So we ran around the house, found popsicle sticks or tongue depressors, found colored paper, quickly wrote on enough piece of paper, freedom and slavery for the number of people we were having, took a stapler, stapled them to the popsicle stick, and that was it. Literally done in under 2 hours. She is now invested in this effort. It's her idea. So as we walked through the Haggadah, she would stop every once in a while and turn to everyone at the table and say, "What do you think? Does this paragraph relate to freedom or slavery or both? And why?" And that became her idea that year. Easy, easy, easy to do. This does not take much work. Passover points. This has got to be the number one idea. We were at lunch at someone's house in the community that has since made Aliyah, and we asked them, "Well, what do you do at the Seder?" And they said, "Well, we give points to the kids. They ask a question, they answer a question, they say something, they read a paragraph, they get points." So how do you keep track of them? So each kid had a book and a bookmark, and as they got more points, they flipped the book to the right page, the page number. I come home and say, "Well, I kind of like graphics, so how can I take this a little bit further?" And we came up with currency for the Seder. So now this is all PDF. Anyone who wants it, happy to pass it out, happy to send it out. These get printed out in the days before the Chag, Erev Yom Tov. This year it would be Friday. We hand these sheets out to the younger kids and let them cut them out. Gives them something to do, makes them part of this also. So again, they're now invested in this. Gives them a job, gives you an hour or two to do something else because they're sitting there cutting out the points. It doesn't matter if they cut exactly or not. Come on, it doesn't matter. Gives them jobs, gives you some time to do something you need to do, and gives them loot because then they can take these home. Creates excitement, little friendly competition. When we first started doing this, my wife would go to Amazing Savings or the dollar store and get little gifts, and whoever got the most points got to pick first. We found actually the kids after a while didn't really care. They were just more interested in the points, and it was just fun to get more points. They ask a question, they answer a question, they do something, they read a paragraph, or just we want to get them back engaged in the Seder. We throw a point their way. Another year, my oldest, again, the one that came up with the voting paddles, again comes to me. I think this is in the weeks before Purim, actually. So now a month and a half before the Chag. She comes to me and says, let's do something interesting at the Seder. I said, "What do you want to do?" "I don't know, of course." said, go look online, go find something, and we'll come back. We'll talk about it. So she finds a website. It was Baba Ganoush. I haven't looked at it in a while. I remember it being a very good site for educational ideas, had a lot of great ideas. I haven't looked at it in a long time. But she came back to me and said, let's do bingo. Now, their bingo, Seder bingo board wasn't going to work well with our family. So we said, okay, let's design our own. We like the idea. Let's design our own. So she and I sat a couple minutes after dinner each night, and this is a grid of 5 times 5, so 25 events or activities that will happen during the Seder that you want to encourage the kids to do during the Seder. Uh, and we came up with 25 different things over the course of a couple weeks. And she's very good with graphics, and she put these boards together, I think actually on PowerPoint. We've made boards for younger kids, we've made boards for older kids, and we have boards for adults. So we vary the difficulty level or the level depending on the age of the people at the Seder. For us, we got 2 really good years out of it. We would put uh, either chocolate chips on the table or jelly rings. My wife wanted healthy alternatives, so we put carrot slices out. And as we hit something along the way, so here on top row, second column, wash without a bracha. It's very early in the Seder, so the kids would get to cover that box with something. Sing the Kadesh Orchat song. So we do that the begin at each step along the way. We sing that song. So very quickly they're starting to cover boxes up, which then gets them excited, gets them engaged, and that we found that they were starting to look ahead, see, oh, what's coming up? What can we do? Can we ask a great good question? We get to cover something up. In the end, we found the kids weren't looking to cover up 5. They just wanted to get the whole thing. So this kept going through the whole Seder. We got 2 really good years out of this. Then it kind of petered out in our family. But I've heard from other people that even at their adult seders, they've kept this going and they still have fun doing this. So it depends on the family. It depends, and you want to do what works. If it's not working, you got to move on. You can't force something. Anyway, this is another great idea. Also, PDF, very easy to send to you if you want. Uh, One year, I'd heard that Rav Tights in Elizabeth, who I think has just passed away, uh, used bananas for karpas. The bracha is ha'adama, so it's the same bracha, and he used it as a way to get the kids to ask questions. Now, my family growing up, we used a sprig of parsley dipped into salt water. That's not very filling and not very exciting. Put banana slices and maybe some chocolate syrup. I think Rav Tights, I hear, dips into salt water or vinegar. Uh, that becomes a lot more filling for the kids, and that maybe allows them to go longer into the Seder. So we had banana slices on multiple plates around the table. We had bowls of chocolate sauce and of salt water around the table. Anyone who wanted to dip whatever way they wanted was welcome. We left the banana slices on the table so the kids could secretly, we knew what they were doing, we knew what we were doing, so they could secretly take banana slices along the way and keep themselves going. Much more filling, has some sugar in them. This chocolate sauce certainly has some sugar in it, has a little bit of caffeine in it, maybe. Not necessarily such a bad thing to have when the night is going to be late. We were at a bar mitzvah at our shul. My son and I were together at a bar mitzvah at our shul. And Howie Kaufman and Micha Kaufman, also from Teaneck, come up to us, and they had been at one of these workshops and said, we want to tell you what we do for Karpas." I said, "Do tell." So they said, "We make French fries and we dip in ketchup. French fries, potatoes are a common custom for Karpas. That's actually what my wife's family used to do. And ketchup certainly has a lot of salt in it and has vinegar in it. So already covers both angles, and that's what they would do." I said, okay. My son and I look at each other, and our eyes are wide open, our mouths drop, and we said, now we know what we're doing. Um, Now we took this one step further and we made a takeoff on the Five Guys Bar and Grill. I think that's what it's called, Five Guys Restaurant. And we got these the holders for that you get in a restaurant for French fries, and we made a label, a takeoff on the paragraph in the Haggadah where the five Rabbanim are sitting around the table in Bnei Brak, talking about Yetzias Mitzrayim until dawn, until their students come and say, it's time to daven Shachris already. And this we did that that year. I was talking with someone else I'd met, and he said he has a lot of kids that he needs really to get excited over this, so he wants to do something very interesting. So in their family, he stops his Seder at Karpas and he brings all the kids into the kitchen where I presume they already have a bowl of pre-grated potatoes and they fry up latkes right there, right in the middle of the Seder. Obviously, you can't do that if it's Friday night, but any other night, it's Yom Tov, you can do this. They take these latkes and they dip them
Seder.
into, I presume, salt water.
Right.
Uh, and that's what he does. I look at him and say, now I know what I'm doing this year. And this is what we did this last year. Uh, Murray Spiegel and Ricky Stein have put together a book where they've collected Manishtana in more than 300 languages. Fun, fun, fun book. Uh, we got this idea originally when we were out with friends in Denver for Seder, and they go around the table at Manishtana trying to say the Manishtana in as many languages as they know at the table. I came back and I wanted to help them. There was the beginnings of Google Translate, and I said, "Oh, let me put it through that." But along the way, I found, wait a minute, someone's already done this. So I got them the book. Now we have the book, and we pass this around the table when it comes time for Manishtana. One year, as we're passing it around, the book falls open to Klingon, which anyone who's watched Star Trek knows this is a very strong, guttural language. Falls open to Klingon at the plate of one of our friends, who, little did we know, is a major Trekkie. So he belts out Manishtana in Klingon, and we're all rolling on the floor. And that just set the tone for the rest of the Seder. And just exciting, fun, and now we do this every year. The Makot, the plagues, are ripe, ripe, ripe for props. The first year we did this, all we did was we took a can of cranberry sauce and we poured it in a glass bowl and put it on the table. Did nothing else. That's all we did that year. With each year, we sort of thought about this more and more. Another year, I made red jello and put cups of it at each person's place. I think 3 years ago, I found these on Amazon for not much. Uh, Cups that, when they're at room temperature, are whitish pinkish. But if you pour ice water into them or something cold into them, they turn deep red. Now you can pass these cups out, or maybe have different cups for different people, and some of your kids will become mitzrim because when you pour water into them, the it will turn to blood, and other people will be Bnei Israel, be Israelim, and their water will stay water. Uh, Another fun thing to do for the Seder. Dam Tzfardea, frogs. We've collected all the plush frogs we had in the house from whatever birthday party, whatever event our kids went to. You see them around. They're not that expensive. You buy them here and there. We also found little plastic frogs in bulk on, I think this was Oriental Trading. You get them for not very much. Just got to be careful with little kids because these may be small enough that may be a choking hazard for little kids. But we put these around our table. You can make origami frogs. We've done that. There's a book actually of Jewish origami, which we have somewhere in our basement in one of our Pesach boxes. And it has instructions to make origami frogs. But you can also look online. And all this is probably in someone's YouTube video. Dam Sfardea, kinim, lice. Lice, kinim was always something very hard. I didn't know how exactly to portray this until I'm in ShopRite one year and I see ice cream sprinkles. I say, aha, that's when the light bulb went off. And so we got a jar and put that in the bowl, put that on the table, and that became representation of lice. Uh, Colors your view of ice cream from then on. A couple years ago, I found a plush louse on Amazon, and we put that on the table. Our friends in Denver, when we were out with them, the husband sprinkled confetti around the table, and that was his representation for Kinim. Dam Svardea Kinim Arov, wild animals. So this we got also from Oriental Trading, these little bendable animals. Our kids used to have a Noah's Ark toy, so we took all the animals from that and we put them around the table. If you're ever in Walmart or Target, take a walk through the toy aisle, take a walk through the clearance aisle. Every once in a while, you'll see some of this stuff on sale or on clearance, and you can pick them up. We have some huge tiger, I think, and an elephant that we picked up, I think, in Walmart one year. Uh, if you look at everything through the lens of Pesach, as I do, you will find these things, not just the week before Pesach, because it's never being sold then, but you'll find these stuff during the year. Um, for Dever, for pestilence, we knock them over on the table, or we knock them off the table. Something simple. Dam Svardea Kinim Harav Dever Shchin, boils. So we've used marshmallows, take a bite off one end, stick it on your face. We've cut strips of bubble wrap and put double back tape on it, so you can then stick those on you. Someone suggested to me a couple years ago that go to Staples and get red labels, circular red labels, and then you can take those off and use those as boils. Dam Svardea Kinim Arov Dever Shchin Barad, hail. So we went to, I think this is from Dick's Sporting Goods in Paramus. I got, I don't know how many there are, 12, 15 ping pong balls. And when the kids were younger, we'd throw these around the table. Marshmallows also work. Either last year or the year before, I got an ice cube tray with large wells in it and filled the wells with water and put an orange slice in them, and froze them, and then showed those around the table. And that's a representation for hail, because in the Torah it says that there was fire and ice together. So the orange slice becomes a way to represent fire with the hail. I'm going to fast forward one slide. This is something a couple years ago. This is something we put together last year. A couple years ago, I'm walking home from shul and I noticed one of our neighbors is throwing away a little Tykes basketball hoop. And in the back of my mind, remember, look at everything through a lens of Pesach. In the back of my mind is that I can do something with this. I'm just not sure what yet. Sunday, I go back up. Thankfully, it's still there. I grab it, I stick it in our garage, and it sits there for a couple years with my wife getting upset that it's still sitting there. I pull it out this year. Got on Amazon a little bit of AstroTurf to represent the crops. And I got some small little wiffle balls with some crepe paper, stuff the crepe paper through the wiffle balls so that becomes fire and ice as hail. And we were intending to have a barad contest, a hail contest. So we were going to have the kids line up and see how many baskets they could get. Let's back up a little bit. So that's hail. Move on to, I'm sorry, taking Arav Dever Shchin Barad Arbe, locust. So Rhode Island Novelty, Oriental Trading used to get these at Party City, which I think has now gone out of business. You can get insects, plastic insects in bulk for not much. And, we picked out the ones that kind of represented a locust and pulled those out, and we'd throw these around the table. One year, my oldest, we had her best friend's family over, and we're throwing the stuff around the table, and one of these insects lands in her friend's wine cup. And they're all upset. Oh my gosh, how can you do this? Why are you throwing stuff around the table? I said, no, this is exactly what was supposed to happen. Why is this part of the story? What can you tell me about the story where this is exactly representation of something that happened in the story. And like, what are you talking about? I said, wait a minute. Think about the story of Pesach. Now back up and gets their minds thinking, and they realize, well, oh, wait a minute. Yosef, with the butler and the fly landing in the wine cup that he's about to serve to Paro, which lands the butler in jail, where he meets Yosef, and the story takes off from there. Uh, you just as an example, anything that happens, you can use that as a teaching moment. Certainly not intended that one of these landed in the wine cup, but you can use all these things as teaching moments. For Choshech, we don't turn lights on or off in our family on Yom Tov, so we hand out sunglasses as a representation for darkness. Um, for the firstborn, the death of the firstborn, this is something that I hadn't really done much with over the years because I didn't want it to be creepy. People have suggested to me get toy coffins during Halloween or little skeletons put on the table, and this is just not going to work for us and just not what I want to do. I didn't want it to be creepy. I also didn't want to minimalize and trivialize the death of the Egyptians. We have our own custom that we say Hallel on the Chag, but Hashem was still upset. God was upset that his creatures are dying. So we have that tradition. So I didn't want to trivialize the death of the Egyptians. So it was hard to come up with something. Murray Spiegel, the guy with the 300 ways to say Manishtana, told me one year that at his Seder one year, he got pictures of everyone coming to their Seder, all adults, figured out who was a Bechor, who was a firstborn, and put a big X through their face, put those out at the table. Now everyone knows where they're sitting, but they come and look, and some people have an X through their face and don't know exactly why and can't figure it out until they come to the plagues and realize, aha, now we know why there's an X through our face and that you can use that to teach, wait a minute, look around, how many of us would have been affected by the plague in Egypt, and how thankful Bnei Israel must have been that they were not affected by it. COVID, just a short 5 years ago, it's devastating on our community. I saw a ton of people die. Maybe not everyone was affected as much, but certainly we were all in quarantine and we were all having, we were isolating from each other, uh, more or less, but certainly our lives changed. And for those kids who are old enough, we can still use that as a teaching tool to show how devastating the plagues must have been to the Egyptians and how thankful Bnei Israel would have been because they were not affected. Um, this past year, we put a paintbrush up on top of this red tablecloth as another way of showing that Bnei Israel, before the 10th plague, before the death of the firstborn, God told them, take the blood of the Korban Pesach and paint it on your doorposts, and you will be passed over. And that's how we've represented the 10 plagues over the years. Now, at this point in the Seder, we stop our Seder. Stop. Everyone gets up, young, old, everyone gets up, and we walk through our house. Off to the right is our dining room. We walk through here into our living room, and we walk through the living room through a doorway that has the blue tablecloth across it. We all know now that's Kriyat Yam Suf. We're walking through the Red Sea, and then we walk back to the table. Now remember, you want to keep your ideas, you want to reuse the ideas, you don't want to have to keep coming up with new ideas, but you want to keep them fresh. So another year, as you saw before, we found a stick in our local park, and we wrote on it the Tzach Hadash B'Chav because traditionally that's the acronym from the from the plagues was on Moses' staff. And now one of the kids at the table walks us through the living room, through the Red Sea, splits the Red Sea with the staff, and then we walk back to the table. Send me an email. Tell me who you are. I have last year. Do I have a picture of it? I thought I had a picture of it. I think this is the one off to the left is the picture from last year that someone won in the raffle. If you're not in Teaneck and you're somewhere else, if you win the raffle, we have something else for you that we can get in the mail. But do send me a note. Let me know who you are. Let me know how you heard about the workshop, and let me know what you use or what you plan on using, so we know whether we've been successful or not. So another year, we printed out Az Yashir. That's the song that Bnei Israel sang as they're crossing the Red Sea. And we have this printed out, we laminated it, and now as we're walking through the house and walking through the Red Sea, we sing Az Yashir out loud. Our family sings that out as we walk through the house. One year, I got a pharaoh costume, as I mentioned before. And as we're hitting the part of Magid right before the plagues, I kind of steal upstairs and quick change into the costume. I can hear where they are in the Seder, and as they're finishing the Makot, they're going through the Makot, I storm downstairs, yell at everyone, get up off the table. I want you out of Egypt right now. Pharaoh was, as the story goes, Pharaoh was with after the tenth plague, the Egyptians and Pharaoh are trying to push Bnei Israel out of Egypt. I have to admit, that was a lot of fun for me. I think it created a lot of excitement with everyone else at the table. Uh, one year the kids turned to me and said, "What can we do? Let's do something. Let's do something for the Seder." And so one of our ubiquitous blue plastic tablecloths we pulled out and we printed out sea creatures and we had them color. We taped them onto the tablecloth and hung it on the wall as we were walking back to our table. The story goes that they walked through the water with walls of water to the right and to the left. Miminamu mismalam. And this is a representation of that. I think it was at the time of Finding Nemo, so you can see plush Nemo there. Thank you, Yehudit Robinson, uh, who sent me a picture of what her kids have done. And again, Mimi Namu Mismalam, walls of water to the right and to the left as they walk through the house. Now, one year, we've taken that pool that you saw before and quick change during the Seder. We've repurposed it. We've taken the basket with the baby doll in it, and we've taken that away. And now we put a blow up palm tree next to it. And as we've said the Makot, we're walking through the house, we've gone through the Yam Suf, we're walking through the Red Sea, now we're coming back to the table. I stop everyone at the swimming pool and say, "So what's next? What happens next?" And they're all looking at me. The kids are all looking at me like, "What are you talking about?" Well, the story doesn't end there. We know there's another 40 years in the desert, and there are hundreds of years in Eretz Israel. And the story doesn't end there. So what comes next after Kriyat Yamsuf? And like they had to think about it for a while. Finally, one of the teenagers said, "Oh yeah, they came to Marah. They came to a place where the water was bitter and they couldn't drink. They complain. God says, 'Stop complaining to me. Moshe, take a tree, cut it down, put it in the water, and the water will become potable, be sweet.'" So we had one of the kids tip over this palm tree into the water as a way of, so now they've learned the story doesn't end with Yitzias Mitzrayim. The story keeps going. And we'll see another example in just a second of how we take this even further. So last 2 years, as our Seder, as the members, as the people attending our Seder are getting older, and the kids are getting older, we, last 2 years, we've printed out place names from where Bnei Israel stopped, either as they're leaving Egypt or in Egypt, they're leaving Egypt, or during their time in the desert. And we took these place names and I sent around an email to everyone who we knew was coming and said, "Your job, you've got 2 weeks to do this. Your job is this is your place name. We assign one place name to each person. Your job is to, at the Seder, tell us a one-liner about what happens at that place." It's there in the Chumash. You can look it up in the Chumash. You can ask anyone. You can ask your father, ask your mother, ask the rabbi. You can Google it. I don't really care. You just can't ask me. But you can find it any way you want. And during the Seder, you're going to give us a one-liner. I don't want a whole essay. I don't want a three-paragraph essay. I want a one-liner on what happened there. So now as we cross the Red Sea, we're starting to come back to the table. We now hit these on the wall. and we stop with each one, and whose ever assignment was each place, they then tell us a one-liner about what happened at that place. If nothing else, that one kid is going to remember what happened to that one place. Hopefully, more of us will remember what happened at each of the places. As an in joke, this is a bathroom door in our house, and I was very specific about which place names we put on the bathroom door. Thank you to someone from our shul who recently sent me a note saying how this workshop has helped them so much. Thank you again, and all the emails I get for telling me how much this has helped them. To me, this is a labor of love, and I love doing it. Again, some people call me obsessive, but I love it. Don't let them be hungry. We've talked about already some ways to make sure there's food on the table. We've talked about the bingo boards. We keep bowls of charoset on the table at all times so anyone can grab a spoonful. My wife keeps an eye out as we're going through the Haggadah for anyone who might be dragging, and we'll bring out a bowl of matzo ball soup for them, or whatever other snack they might want. We've talked about banana slices. We leave those on the table. Chocolate sauce is a really good thing. Chocolate chips we mentioned before. French fries, latkes. These are different things that we've had on the table at different times so that food is available. Yes, there's a tradition of not eating between karpas to matzah. Not sure how strongly that really is. We can talk about that. And maybe that's for adults, but for kids, let's be honest, the whole point of the Seder is for the kids. We got to keep them going. And it's a late night, and it's a long and late night. We got to keep them going. Any kid, we haven't done this for a couple years because all the kids have gotten older, but any kid when they were young, if they wanted to take time away from all the excitement, and just have some private time, we put books in another room. They could sit there and read. We never did this, but we had the idea to get play tents that we could put in the rooms, and you can put inside pictures of clouds or pictures of fire to represent the Ananei HaKavod, the clouds of glory, or the pillars of fire that protected or led Bnei Israel during their years in the desert. And they can crawl into one of these tents, learn a little bit because they see right in front of them a picture, and they can also read and have their little private time and get ready to come back for more excitement at the table. Number of years ago, I apologize, I misspelled his name. The son of one of my cousins, Elyon, and I were talking on the phone, trying to come up with ideas for the Seder, and we came up with let's get boxes for each person at the Seder, and we'll put random objects in it. And if we see during the Seder that the Seder's slowing down or people are kind of dragging, we'll stop the Seder and tell people, open up your box and pull out an object and tell us why you brought that with you when you left Egypt. So in this box, there's a bow. So maybe someone might say, "Oh, I took a bow with me because we're coming to Mount Sinai. We're going to get the Torah. I mean, I wanted to look good. But there's a game piece there. We knew there was going to be downtime. We want to have games for the kids." Each box we had ready to go, pre-printed little divrei Torah, so that even if someone didn't have their own, they already had something they could say and not feel embarrassed. Uh, Whatever people wanted to do. We made fun parody labels based off FedEx, um, put on the label, put on the box. Janet Hode, again, she took this idea and ran with it and made moving boxes and put that near her Seder table and labeled the moving boxes as if to deal with we're taking this out of Egypt. This we're going to deal with when we get to Canaan. We'll deal with this in the desert. I think a brilliant idea. Uh, one year, one of our guests, their job was to bring charoset to the table. They brought, I think, 4 or 5 different charosets to the table, which gave us the idea that maybe we should do a charoset bar one year. So we downloaded all these recipes. It's a great way to have different tastes, great way for the kids to learn about different cultures within our community, that we're not all Eastern European as we are in my family, but the Jewish community comes from all around the world, and we each have different customs. We're all the same. We're all doing the same thing, but in different ways. So it's a great way to teach also. Older kids. So the younger kids, props are great. All the costumes are great. Maybe not so much for the older kids. So we've had to come up with ways to engage the older kids. We've come up with different brain teasers and word puzzles. So Passover math, we call it. Four equals N of C of wine. Four equals numbers of cups of wine. Or 10 equals number of P and E, plagues in Egypt. And we've come up with a whole series of these. Echad Mi Yodea, the song we sing at the end, gives you 13 of them right off the bat. We came up with a number of these, printed them up, and if we saw kids needed something to do, we'd hand them out. I think in our house, actually, we were walking to lunch on the other side of town, and we were playing this as we were walking the 25 minutes to our host's house. This comes from a game from a puzzle magazine from that I used to get when I was a little kid, and I remembered this from years ago. A couple years ago, these algebraic puzzles with figures were popular, so we made one for Pesach. And if your kid is into this, might be fun for them to figure out what each of the figures, what a frog represents, what a bottle of wine represents, what a cup of wine represents. Uh, We've put together word searches. This is basically the section from Parshat Kitetse that we read at the Seder. Arami Oved Avi, an Aramean tried to kill my ancestor, and we made a word search out of it. Uh, this website, Simchat Yechiel, I think they're based out of Beit Shemesh in Israel, has a whole bunch of games that they have for different holidays through the year. This is one we really liked, and we downloaded Taboo from them. There's also a Jewish edition of Taboo. I think I got it at one of the local bookstores, and we pulled out all the cards related to Pesach. We put that together with Simchat Yechiel cards, and we didn't play it at the Seder. We were too busy doing other things, but we played it over lunch one day. And just so all these things we're talking about don't necessarily have to be done at the Seder. Remember, we've got two, or this year we've got 3 days of Yom Tov to deal with, and then another 2 days at the end. So you're gonna have a lot of family time where you may want other activities and other things to do with the family. There are maze generators online. We created one. We overlaid it on top of a picture of a piece of matzah that became something else for the kids to work through. We've made some word games. So we call this one Dayenu. I actually beta tested this with some of the nurses in the hospital where I work, non-Jewish nurses. They didn't get the Jewish references, but they actually had a blast going through this. So as an example, in Babylonia, they added water to their wine. So every word, every answer has to have the sound Dayenu, or the sound die in it for Dayenu. So in Babylonia, they added water to their wine, becomes dilute. Ancient animals become dinosaurs. And we came up with a lot of these and we passed around the table. Good for adults also. Uh, and that became something to do when the kids needed something else. My son came up with this one. It took the first three letters of Passover. Pas also means bread in Aramaic, so you can sort of see the tie-in here. Uh, and basically looked through the dictionary for PAS and looked at all the words that start with PAS and picked out 10 words and came up with short clues for each of those words. PAS, unleavened holiday, is obviously Passover. PAS, intense emotion, is passion. I think from one place to another, if I remember, is passage. So you can see, very easy to do. You can do this easily with other words. It's just looking up in the dictionary and coming up with simple clues. Sarah Kapitnikov, who I think I saw join us, is brilliant. It's one of these brilliant people who comes up with these ideas. And she came up with what for. I think this was actually one of the games that was in some of the local newspapers as on their game section. And she turned these into a what for Pesach. She's also turned into the different Chagim I've seen for Rosh Hashanah, for Sukkot. So I've taken hers for Pesach and we passed that around the table. So it's a grid of 4 times 4 of 16 squares and 4 groups of 4, and you have to come up with 4 groups of 4 where each word relates to each other. So I'm looking at this: blood, lice, hail, and plagues are probably one. Uh, we can do more another time. Uh, I don't know if that's correct. It's been a year since I've looked at this. Number of years ago, with one of our daughters, we're at lunch, and we had said we hand this to her, and we said, one of the local museums found this in their archives, and it's a page from Pharaoh's daughter's diary, and they're looking to get it translated. So we had written out a little story that she might have written, talking about her life during the plagues and what it was like as as Bnei Israel are leaving Egypt. Basically, just change the font into hieroglyphics, so not not a hard cipher, not a hard code. And we gave her the key. And over lunch, she puzzled it out. You can get If you have Scrabble pieces, you can help the kids with that, or bananagrams. They also have that gives you the alphabet. You can give them those pieces to help them put the letters in order. Uh, we aged the paper. This is basically printer paper. Dipped it in coffee, dried it out, then burnt the edges with a candle to make it look old. Afikoman. So mentioned early on that friendly competition is good, real competition is not. So at the beginning, when we first started doing Seders, we put one afikoman out. Whoever found it first, that was it. But then, of course, everyone else, all the other kids are crying. It wasn't fair. We didn't get a chance to find it. He or she found it. What are we going to do? And after a couple of years of this, we said enough. And I said, why don't, there's no reason we can't put out more than one. So we gathered up all these felt envelopes that the kids would bring home. They made them in school that don't get used, and we used them. And we would make an afikoman for each kid that was at our table, and we hide them around the house. Now every kid had one. Uh, they were only allowed to find one, and that meant that each kid had their own, and no more complaining. And that lasted for a number of years. That was very good until the kids got a little bit older, and they said, there's no fun anymore because it's so easy. You got to make it a little bit harder for us. So then we started coming up with other ideas. So one idea, I call this tickets. So we printed out the different steps for the Haggadah. There's 8 of the 14. And on the back, we wrote a clue. You can do letters, you can do words, whatever you want. In this case, those 14 tickets spell out inside matzah box. So we put the afikoman in a matzah box that was right near the Seder table. So basically hiding in plain sight. We hide these tickets, cut the tickets out, hide them around the house, and the kids have to find them. There are 14 of them, so they have to work together to find them. And then they have to work together how to put them in the right order to figure out what the clue is. Well, you can figure out the order fairly obviously because it goes in order of the Seder. And again, you can sing the song, you can teach them the order of the Seder, and then you turn over the tickets, and there's the clue right in front of you. Another year, my younger daughter didn't want to be searching for the afikoman. She wanted to make the afikoman hunt. So she took a picture of a bookshelf in our house and made it into a jigsaw puzzle, handed that to the other kids at the table. They then had to put the jigsaw puzzle together, find the bookshelf where there was another puzzle of a dollhouse, put the dollhouse together, find another puzzle, which led them back to the Seder table. And underneath the Seder table, you can see this is an Amazon bag that I had taped to the underside of the table, and that's where our afikoman was. Another great idea, by the way. You're breaking the middle matzah, you got to wrap it up, and you got to hide it. And you don't want someone taking it from you because you're looking to hide it around the house. This is sitting right, it's in your lap. You just slide this right into this bag, right under the table. Done. Out of the way. No one knows it's there. You don't have to worry about anyone taking it from you. Amazing idea. Can't do it every year because they'll catch on, but very good idea. One year I wanted to make these into a plate uh, to put the matzah on, but the company I found had run out of plates, so we made a towel or a blanket instead. And if you look at this, it just looks like random dots, but if you look a little bit more carefully, you realize this is Braille. So we made a clue in Braille. The kids found a key in a dictionary we had on a bookshelf. We printed out a key just to make sure that there would be one, just in case, and the kids could then figure out the clue and figure out where the afikoman was hidden. My son-in-law is a physics major, or was a physics major, just graduated college. My daughter is in biochemistry, so we put together an alphabet made of physics equations. Uh, so let's area equals pi r squared. Let's do G. G is gravity, 9.86 meters per second squared. And distance over speed equals time. Time equals distance over speed. So gravity, G, equals mc squared, E, T. Get area, A, get A, and I think if I remember correctly, the clue was get a towel, and I don't remember the rest of the clue, but basically we hid it among a pile of towels in another room, so they had to find the pile of towels, and that's where they would find the afikoman. Uh, we took one of a Haggadah last year, and right after, right at the beginning of benching, we circled letters. Here you can see it up close. Circled letters, and if you read it in order, that becomes the clue. But we left it on the table, didn't tell anyone until it came time to look for the afikoman. Then we turned to the one family whose clue this was and said, "It's in one of your Haggadahs. It's in the Haggadah. Look through the Haggadah, and maybe you want to focus on the area around, the afikoman and Safun." So in fact, they found it and then put the clue together. This is a picture my daughter had painted at summer camp years and years and years before. And we hid the clue behind the lighthouse. And you can see that we BHIND behind. You can see that's how we made the clue. Doesn't have to be complicated. It can be fairly simple like that, but enough to give a little bit of a challenge. When the kids were in ninth grade and they were taking freshman high school biology, we put together something using tRNA codons. Yes, we're a very science-oriented family. In 10th grade, they were taking high school chemistry. We put together something with the periodic table. You can make an alphabet. You can use the periodic table as an alphabet. You can use the amino acids for the tRNA codons as an alphabet and come up with a clue with those. This year, we're having college students who are taking biology again. Last year, they were taking chemistry, so we reused the periodic chart. And this year, we'll probably reuse for some of them the tRNA codon clues. One year, my daughter was learning sign language. So we put together a clue in sign language. Down here is we call it stretch font. You write a clue, and you can take a picture of that, and then as a graphic, in a graphics program, you can either stretch it or compress it. So you can compress it in one direction and extend it or stretch it in another direction. You get a clue that's basically illegible when you look at it face on. But if you turn the page on its side and look at it at that angle, you can then read the clue. Whoops. This is the Braille. If anyone's played the game Clue, we made a clue one year where if you put a piece of red cellophane on top of it, the clue which is written in blue then is highlighted because all the red gets blanked out. Intention was, and it worked a little bit, but we had red cellophane just in case, that if we had the right color grape juice on the table or the right color wine, you could look through the glass of wine at the clue and find where the afikoman was hidden. One year we found a jigsaw puzzle, small jigsaw puzzle, wrote the clue on that before the holiday, and then hid the pieces around the house, and the kids found the pieces and put the jigsaw puzzle together, and they could figure out where the clue and figure out where the afikoman was. One year we got a toolbox and found a little thingy, for lack of a better word, that would allow you to lock the toolbox with multiple locks. And we put multiple locks on, and each lock we gave a clue to a different family around the table. And each family had to figure out their clue to figure out the combination to that lock to unlock the various locks on the toolbox to then open up and get the afikoman inside. Of course, one of our guests figured out that you could open up the box from the back end. Unbeknownst to everyone, took out the afikoman, hid it himself, put the box back together. So we're figuring out these clues, figuring out the locks. We open the box and it's empty. Of course, we realized what happened, and that was fantastic. We loved it. It was so funny because we had worked so hard, and there he had already beaten us to it. Uh, most of us, when we were kids, I'll venture to guess that our parents, at least my father did, would always tap the table as we get to Shvach Hamatcha. We open the door, the cup of Eliyahu was filled, and he tapped the table, and look, the wine's moving. Eliyahu must be drinking. Okay, very cute. That works for a couple years. We did that with our kids. I said, let's take this a step further. I read about Pythagorean cup, where if you fill it part way, you can see here, if you fill it part way, it doesn't drain. But when you fill it all the way, it drains out the bottom. And there's this siphon built into the wall to do this. So we had one 3D printed. This is in the middle of COVID, actually. We had it 3D printed, and that has now become our Kos Eliyahu at the table. One of these days, we'll actually take it to the next level and create a base for it, but we haven't gotten that far. We've been interested in doing other things. This year, we thought I was looking on Amazon, just surfing on Amazon, and came across this. And my son and I were looking at each other and said, "Oh, this would be cool. Let's get a life-size cutout of one of our guests at the table, stick it outside our front door. So when we open the door for Shvach Hamadcha, who comes in as Eliyahu? Who's there as Eliyahu, one of our guests?" So another way to create excitement around the table as an adult. Um, we know for Rosh Hashanah, there's simanim, apples and honey. We dip apple and honey for a sweet year. There's a whole series of these that many people will read at dinner, Rosh Hashanah night. So we said, let's do this for Pesach, not for the Seder, but maybe for another meal. So one year we did this. We got together all the bad puns based around the Seder that we had collected over the years, and we turned them into simanim, into signs. So shamir is the Hebrew word for dill. So it sounds like the word shimorim, leil shimorim, a night of guarding. That's what the first day of Pesach is called in the Torah. So we passed around dill, and everyone took a piece of dill, and that became a way of remembering that Pesach, the first night of Pesach, is considered a night of guarding, that God will guard us. We've done that with tomatoes. All the bad puns are here. I just highlighted dill. Apricots has one. We have a whole series of these, a whole booklet of these. It's all PDF. Feel free to ask. Feel free to email me. Please do email me anyway. But email me if you want this. Easy to print out. You can do this in English also. Butter. Remember how Israel left slavery in Egypt for a better life in the service of God. Yams. Remember how Israel crossed the Yam Suf, the Red Sea, when leaving Egypt. You can sort of keep going with these. Now, I'll show you someone who's really done this up. New Haggadahs. These This Haggadah is a real favorite of mine. This came out a couple years ago. Jordan Gorfinkel, who's actually at our shul, did a workshop of cartooning at our shul, I guess a month or two ago, and really amazingly got all the kids engaged. I never saw such a crowd on a Saturday night with all the kids engaged, excited to do cartooning on their own. He and Eretz Tzadok have put together a graphic novel, Haggadah. The graphics are fantastic, and the nuances in here are also amazing. So there's one section we read that if we hadn't been taken out of Egypt, we would still be slaves to Pharaoh in Egypt. So he has a graphic there with an Egyptian taskmaster looking over a whole room of computer programmers with kippot on. And we're like, what a brilliant idea to represent that concept that we would still be slaves to Pharaoh. Another one with the four sons. So no longer just four sons, there are some daughters there. And the Rasha, the evil one, is not evil per se. Uh, he's represented as a kid who is in a bad mood, who needs a little time away. And he goes to his room, comes down, he comes and he realizes he's really part of the family and comes back to the table and to finish up the Seder with the rest of the family. My younger daughter, at one point, she was 10 or 11, said something at the Seder, which has lasted with me all these years, said, maybe it's not that all that this son is all good and this son is all evil and forever they're like that. Maybe it's at sometimes a child may be really good and really smart, and sometimes they want to act out and they're just in a bad mood. And our children will change over time. And that was a huge lesson to me coming from her, who was 10 or 11 at the time. It's an amazing lesson to me. And I'm always learning from my kids. Uh, Martin Bodek, who I think is also online with us, fantastic. What a brilliant mind. And has put together what a Haggadah that I just love because I love dad jokes. My son and I were looking through this and we were laughing, laughing, laughing. This is just great. We just had a blast. And I fully intend on using this at our Seder. It's not translated into dad jokes, but with each section of the Haggadah, he puts down dad jokes that relate to that section. He also put together a Haggadah translated in the style of Shakespeare. My wife is a big Shakespeare fan. She was having a blast with that. A number of years ago, he made translated into emoji. So I didn't find that very useful for the Seder itself, but we turned that into puzzles. So we took pictures of of different pages and we passed those around the table and had the kids puzzle out the emojis to figure out what paragraph they were reading from the Haggadah. Another way to get the kids, the older kids at least, who were already using emojis on their phone, uh, to get engaged at the Seder. One of our neighbors, a couple of years ago, uh, we wake up in the morning after the first Seder and we see a label stuck to our door, like UPS. Sorry, we missed you. First attempt. I'll try again tomorrow. Se does this again the second day. I heard must have gotten up at 5 o'clock in the morning. No one else is awake at 5 o'clock in the morning after the Seder. And she sticks this on a lot of the doors of the neighbors. Sorry, we missed you. Second attempt. See you next year in Yerushalayim. Eliyahu Hanavi, Elijah the prophet. Absolutely brilliant. The kids in the shul are all trying to figure out who put this up. They're all blaming me. And I'm like upset because damn, what a great idea. I wish I had thought of it. But of course it wasn't me. Finally, after I think the second day, either she gave in or they figured out that it really was her. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant idea. This is PDF'd. Happy to pass this out. She's thrilled that people are using it. We have to update it each year, of course, for the year. Thank you, Stacy Lancy, for this idea. We've created puzzles. One year we took pictures of different things we've used at the Seder. You see some of the things already. You see the bingo boards, the points. We took a picture of wine cups and some of the place cards, and we made a collage out of this and created a puzzle out of this. And we had that on in the living room so the kids could play with that as we're waiting for the Seder to start. During the 2 days of Yom Tov, they had downtime. They could work on it. I ended up working on it a little bit. was a fun thing for us to do. Came out really, really cool. And I think the puzzle itself came out cool, and the box to me is really cool. Thank you again, Stacy Lancy. I think 2 years ago, this shows up at our front door. Erev Pesach, I come back from, I think I was at work. I came home, and this is on our front steps. Uh, Apparently, we had ordered our Korban Pesach, and it had come in the mail, and we had bought it for 2 zuzim, just like the song says in Chag Gadya. You can't see it so clearly, but several years prior, my son and I had made a sales receipt from Burlington Goat Factory for a goat we had bought for 2 zuzim. So we taped that to the top of the box. Also something that's PDF. You're happy to send that to you if you want, and you can pass those around. Last year, the year before, we said let's do something a little bit different, and we made ice creams. Parv ice cream. You can make them out of coconut milk, coconut cream. There's almond milk on the market. You can get an ice cream maker for not that much, or blenders work. There are even some recipes where you don't need a blender, and you just semi-freeze it in the freezer. We've made sorbets, Adam and Eve's apple and cinnamon sorbet. This is my favorite, Noah's floating house of pears sorbet, for the multiple puns there. Chocolate reflecting choshech and darkness, rocky road out of Mitzrayim, banana split the Red Sea. We pass these out. Not that the ice cream was all that good, to be honest. I like this. I like the sorbets, uh, but just another fun way to create some excitement and show that our seders are a little bit different. Uh, Thanksgiving, I guess a year and a half ago, I'm sitting at Thanksgiving with our sister-in-law and brother-in-law, and talking with our nephew, who I think is 10 or 11 at this point, and he's a hot sauce fan. So we commiserated over being hot sauce fans. And we said, let's do this for Pesach. So we got together one Sunday, uh, in the weeks before Pesach last year, and we made hot sauce. We had bought peppers in the supermarket. We downloaded a recipe, got all the ingredients we needed, and made hot sauce. Wasn't that hard. It was actually quite easy and a fun exercise to do, and got him excited. At Thanksgiving this past year, we were talking again. We said, we should call it something. So we came up with the name Hot as Hail Hot Sauce. So a play on the words. I hope it's a little bit on the edge for him, a little bit edgy for him, but just enough on this side that it's okay. Uh, and a fun thing to do, get him excited. And thank you, Ashi, for working with me on this one. And hopefully we get to do this again in the next couple weeks. Websites we've used. We've mentioned some of them. Oriental Trading, Rhode Island Novelty has a ton of little games, little puzzles, all the different props that we've used. Great websites. They overlap a lot. But they each have their own things that the other doesn't sell. They sell in different quantities, so one may be better for you than the other, or both work. Seders for You is Murray Spiegel's website, where he sells the book, but you can also get the book in any Jewish bookstore. The 300 Ways to Say Manishtana. But he also has, if you're into themed seders, he's a ton of themed seders that he and his wife have put together, and you can look at them and use them, incorporate them into your own sedarim. He also has a ton of fun ideas to do at the Seder, different things to do at the Seder, including some of the stuff. He's put some of our stuff up there. Great website. Simchat Yechiel we mentioned before for the Pesach taboo, for the Passover taboo, but they have different games for different holidays through the year, and so also worth looking through, not just for Pesach. They have a number of games, even also for Pesach, but also for other holidays during the year. They're two very good Facebook pages. put together by a woman, Shira Greenspan, who actually helped put together exactly this, but for on Israel time several hours ago. But she's put together two Facebook pages, one Festival Fun, Kaif im Modeh Hashanah, and one Parsha Fun, Kaif im Parshat HaShavua, where people put up fun things to do with each Parsha, or fun things to do with the holiday. People put up what they're cooking to represent the Parsha, different crafts, different costumes, different activities to do with the kids related to either the holiday or the Parsha. Uh, Thank you again to the various adult ed committees of the different shuls that have helped put this together over the years. Thank you hugely also to Rabbi Shaiwitz and Shira Shaiwitz. Shira has been an amazing sounding board for me over the years. And Rabbi Shaiwitz for always being there, a good sounding board, a friend, and helping take this workshop online when COVID hit. And of course, thank you to my wife and to the rest of the family who put up with all my antics. Do try these at home. Don't do everything. We've just had 90 minutes. I think it's been 90 minutes of jam-packed with a ton of different ideas to do with the Seder. Just do two or three, do a couple. This is 30 years worth of ideas. You will want other ideas for future years. As your kids get older, you want to change with those years. So just do a couple each year. Don't do everything. Keep some of the ideas the same, make them fresh, but keep them going. It don't do everything every year. That's just way too much. Uh, do send me your name, send me your email, tell me what you learned, tell me if there's an activity that really strikes you, tell me what you're planning on doing at the Seder from the workshop. I'm going to hold a raffle with all the emails that I get and pick if you're local, it'll probably be a Matem Moshe that you'll get. And if you're not, I have something else that I can put in the mail to you, a game to play at the Seder. Chag Kasher Sameach, have a happy and kosher holiday. May we all pray for a speedy return for all the hostages that have not yet come back, a speedy recovery for all those who were injured. Unfortunately, not all the hostages came back alive. And we don't know what will be, as today we hear Israel is now going back into Gaza. We don't know what the next several weeks will hold. Let's keep all our family in Israel, our friends and family in Israel in mind, as they will need our support. This is my email. Send me an email. Tell me what you're doing. Tell me how you found out about it. And again, we'll put you into a raffle. Thank you. The end. Hopefully this has been a great workshop for everyone. Any questions? Any comments? I don't get a look at the chat. I can't look at the chat while I'm going, so let's see if anyone has any questions. Don't necessarily put your email in the chat because I don't know that I get to save that later. But send me an email separately. Are you doing all the shtick plus reading through every page of the Haggadah or being selective? We're being very selective. We're reading the whole Haggadah. We're being selective what we slow down on, what we read fast, what parts of the Haggadah have shtick, what we just read through. It depends on the age of the kids, depends on how the Seder is going. You got to play by ear. You got to, if it's not working, move on. If the kids are dragging, you got to move on. If you sprinkle glitter in a laminator sheet and put it through the laminator, you can make a sheet that if you look through, it looks like lice. Ah, I like that idea. Can we get links to the recording? Absolutely. This is being recorded and will be uploaded. And email me again to remind me to send you the link. And we'll get that out to you. Sari is brilliant. Yes, Sarah Kapitnikov is brilliant. I agree. She has amazing ideas, and her website is fantastic. Martin Bodek, thank you for your Haggadahs. And thank you everyone for attending. Any questions, please? Otherwise, we'll end.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a Chag Kasher Sameach.
I
And
can't believe you did this twice today.
like I said, it's a labor of love, and I can talk about Pesach all year, as as you learned.
And you do. Thank you.
Um, Enjoy. I hope this has been worthwhile for everyone. Email me. We'll get you the link out when it gets uploaded. Email me for the raffle. Email me your own ideas. Email what ideas you've taken from this, what you plan on using at your Seder. I'd love to hear. And new ones. I want new ones. Some of these ideas I've gotten from other people in our community. So always looking for new ideas. Okay. I guess that's it.